Welcome to the Drake Shake, a polar podcast hosted by seasoned Antarctica expedition guide Neil Drake. With over 10 seasons guiding and 1,000 days spent on the ice, Neil will be joined by fellow guides and industry experts to share their years of experience and knowledge to help you make the most informed decision when planning your once-in-a-lifetime adventure. From picking the right itinerary to deciding when to go, we will cover it all. The Drake Shake is brought to you by Antarctica Travel Group and Let'sGoPolar.com. Now, here's your host, Neil Drake, with this week's episode.
If only everybody heard the profanities that came out of Greg's mouth because he's so Australian prior to hitting the record button. Hi, Greg.
It was deeply, deeply Australian for
Hi, Neil.
Guess from there.
All right, everybody. All right, everybody, and welcome back to a new episode of the Drake Shake podcast. My name is Neil Drake, and as always, I'm here with my co-host, Nikki. How are you, Nikki?
Hello. I am wonderful. A bit sleepy and ready for dinner, but wonderful otherwise.
Still in Argentina?
I'm still in Argentina, yes.
Chronologically speaking, you're supposed to be on your trip by now, but we are recording this episode prior to the release date because you're going to be on a trip. I'm going to be on a trip. We are definitely in an interstellar moment right now.
It's okay. Time isn't real.
All right. Who do we have today? We have the one and only Greg Carter. Greg Carter, welcome to the show. You're long overdue to be a guest. We're really excited to have you here. How are you doing, Mr. Greg? Where are you? Tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us the rundown. How are you?
Hey, Neil. I'm doing really well. Good to get on here, man. I've been waiting for my invitation, sitting around by the mailbox, waiting for it. And finally, it's here. I was so excited. This day, I thought this day would never come. For those out there in Drake Shake Land, my name's Greg Carter. I've co-founded a polar company called Chimu Adventures way back when, and I'm currently the CEO and founder of Terra Nova Expeditions, which is a brand new tour operator operating in Antarctica. I've been on the agent side and I've been on the product side, so I guess that's why you dragged me into this.
This is sort of a Greg thing. I'm supposed to do the introductions. You gave us all of it.
Well, you said to give you a piece, Neil. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know what you're going to say.
I usually set you up for it. So
you do.
Yeah, Greg, this is exactly why you're on today's episode. You are probably one of the most experienced, seasoned members of the polar industry. You have started your own company a few times. You've gone into retirement. You get real bored. You come right back out of retirement with a brand new project. So, Greg, if you've listened to the show before, I like to start off with a little bit of a cold opener. Polar cold opener.
I get it now.
Usually it's like a fun story.
Time.
Usually it's a fun little background story. You've had some good stories with the past guests. For you, the easiest way to sum it up, yeah, like I said, you are probably one of the most experienced people in the polar industry. And for those of you back home who are listening, have been following me for a little while, they've been in the Facebook group for a little while. A lot of people always ask me how I got here. It's mostly because of Greg. Greg was my mentor in the industry. Greg saw what I was doing maybe 7 or 8 years ago, hustling in the Facebook groups, and Greg tapped me on the shoulder and he gave me my first crack at selling some trips as an agent. And then Greg ended up helping me get set up with the first charter.
Used to be polite.
I'm still polite, but not to the guys Greg and I usually start meetings with beers in our hand when we have conversations, video chats. Greg, so you were co-founder of Chimu. They're still around. They had a big buyout from another larger company. And then I said, you went into retirement for a little bit. You came out, you were then the chief commercial officer of Albatross for a little bit.
Indeed.
You had
yep.
Yeah. And you also had a stint at Enterply for a little while as well.
Yeah, a little bit. I went in there for a little while and worked with Antarctica, did some stuff with them. So great little product, great small ship, which is fantastic. You know, I like small ships. So that was
I love it. You love them. And you are now the CEO, founder, all the COs, all but like the CFO, really. A brand new expedition company, Terra Nova Expeditions. We're not going to dive too deep into Terra Nova because I do believe that we're going to do a full episode on Terra Nova. It's a great new product that's out in the industry right now.
Appreciate it.
I think it's worthy of people having a good conversation about it. But today's episode is going to be one of the bigger questions that we get when it comes to planning is whether to use a travel agent or whether to book direct. And if you've been listening to the show, we're putting these episodes out in an order in which I think that people have considerations when it comes to planning their trip, when to go, how to get the best deal. Is it worth adding a different type of itinerary? And now the booking process. Do I book direct or do I book with a travel agency? And the reason I have you on is because you have not only owned a travel agency, but now you own your own company. So you've been on both sides of it. In addition to being a chief commercial officer of a few different companies in between, both owning your own agency and now owning your own operation company. So we got a lot of things we want to cover today. and I'm just going to pick your brain. Is that cool?
Not much to pick, Neil, so it won't take long. But yeah, happy to. I think the shortest podcast ever.
It could be a very quick podcast.
Absolutely, mate. Anytime.
Okay, we're going to jump right into it because I think one thing that people are thinking about when it comes to booking a trip, here's a myth that I hear a lot, and I want you to settle it for us.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get a better deal when you book direct?
No.
Would you like to elaborate a little bit on that?
I don't like to answer direct questions here. Just for those out there, I was told that last time I had a chat with Neil, I do tend to fluff up and talk around the subject a little bit. So I was told to be very direct. So that was very direct. Look, to be honest, you don't. I mean, a lot of people think agents take commission and things like that, and which is true. But at the end of the day, the pricing is the same. So that's built into the operators. And it's not really in a tour operator's interest to discount and then the sales partners, which for many operators can be 70 or 80% of their distribution, for them to then undercut the agents who are out there doing a great job in selling the product. So no, that's certainly not the case.
And we touched on this on the end of last episode when we had Sarah. Actually, we just filmed an episode with Sarah Scott.
Oh, great.
Freestyle.
Awesome.
Talk about another legend in the industry, somebody who's got
Absolutely.
a real reputation for being one of the biggest leaders in the industry. We talked about this a little bit at the end of the episode. It was about last minute versus early bird and where to get the best deal at. And we touched on it a little bit. And like you're saying, Greg, it's in the best interest of the tour operators who provide the ships and the trips to support their agents as much as possible. If they start pricing out the agents who are filling, how much did you say, 70 or 80% of the beds?
Absolutely. Yeah. Depending on the operator. Every operator is slightly different, but yeah, that would be an average.
So if they're pricing out their agents who are unable to sell at a competitive price, we won't support that company anymore. We just won't sell
Correct.
their beds. And then they're losing our support. And it's sort of an agreed upon rule or a guideline in the industry that the operators will not offer trips less than the agents can, even in private messaging or anything along those lines. Because if we find out, then we have a bone to pick with the operators as well.
Yeah.
Before we even get started into this episode, I wanted to tackle that myth because I think that it's one of the things that people have in the back of their minds that they're going to get a better deal. But there's a lot of other benefits that come to using a travel agency in our industry. Nikki.
Yes.
The first time you went to Antarctica, you also went as a guest, just like I did. And if you were listening to the last episode, Nikki also used a travel agency. And is that normal for you? Or did you find that just in this case, an agency was the best way to go?
It is definitely not normal for me. I don't think I've ever really used a travel agency before, maybe when I was first starting to do solo travel, but I mostly book everything direct or solo. And this was because Antarctica travel is so hyper specific and polar travel in general is so hyper specific. I did not want to try to figure it out on my own. It's too much information, too many options. I'm lazy by nature. So I was like, I just want someone else to kind of take the reins and help me figure this out. And I'm so glad that I did.
I think, especially in our industry, it's so overwhelming. It's so overwhelming.
That's crazy.
That's the one thing that we hear all the time.
A lot of information out there, and there's a lot of different products, and everyone's trying to differentiate themselves. And yeah, it can be really confusing. Choosing can be confusing.
Think about all the things that we have to take into account when to go, what itinerary. Greg, how many ships are in the industry right now?
I think last count there's about 60, pushing up to 70.
Yeah, 66, 67 ships. We get 2 or 3 in and out each season. So we got over 60 ships to pick from. Ship size is a big one. How big of a ship do you want to go on? If you're into activities, do you get them included like on the Terra Nova or on base camp trips? Aurora is now offering that. Do you want to pay for them a la carte? What kind of kayaking program do you want to do? Do you want to do a day paddle or do you want to do a full intensive kayaking program? So there's a lot of things when it comes to picking a trip, and it's a lot of information. It's a lot of information to digest by yourself. And I can't tell you how many times I've gotten an email with people who have been doing weeks and weeks of research, and then you realize that you can solve their problem in 4 emails.
Yeah. And I've been in this industry, as you know, for 20 years, and I've seen lots of ships come and go. I see lots of agents come and go, and a lot of people come and go. And man, I'm confused. I look at the product sometimes and I go, what's going on here? Who are these guys? Or what's this ship? Man, it's confusing. And if I'm a consumer coming in and go, I want to go to Antarctica, I'm looking at what's available. I'm going, where do I start? That is exactly what I'm doing. And I mean, it's just the way it goes, right?
And I'm sure there are people who are listening to this episode saying, oh, well, Neil, you own a travel agency. Obviously, you want people to use a travel agency. And I can understand that sort of thinking here. But I exist because we provide a service that I believe is so beneficial in this industry. One thing also, another misconception, we don't charge for our services. I don't know a single travel agency in the industry who charges for their service. The price that you pay is the same that you'll see advertised. And we obviously get compensated by the providers, but there's no fee for using a travel agent. You can reach out to a travel agent and you could see a price posted on an operator's website, and you can reach out to a travel agent. You'll pay the exact same price, but you might get some additional things like onboard credits. Maybe we can negotiate cabin upgrades. Maybe you get free rental gear if you book somewhere local. Maybe the trip that you saw online wasn't exactly the trip that fit your needs the best, and your travel agent might have some other suggestions. I'll even go as far as to say this, talk about the pricing. Sometimes travel agents get a better price than if you were to go direct.
Yeah, sometimes they do, man. Sometimes agents have big group allocations. Sometimes they may have, I know in your case, Neil, you may take a half charter or a charter on a vessel, and that allows you to control your pricing a little bit. So you may be able to offer slightly different pricing to what you can get direct. There's also all the other benefits, right? You touched on some of them. It's just the expertise. You got these guys like who have traveled on multiple ships, who've been doing this for a long, long time. And it's all the other ancillary services that you can provide also, right? It's not just, hey, I'm booking a trip to Antarctica. It's what else can the agent provide, which is generally a lot more comprehensive than the operator is direct.
That's a lot. It's a good point because, for example, and I don't want this to become like a book with ATG kind of show. Like that's not what this is all about.
Yeah.
This is more like you're saying. There's a lot more resources that come along with it. For example, if you were to contact a ship operator and you would say, "Hey, I would like to add 2 weeks to my trip, and I maybe want to go see Iguazu Falls, or I want to go to Patagonia and stuff," the ship operator might say something like, "Well, you're gonna have to contact a travel agent for that." Where if you book your trip through a travel agent, they might have those resources. They might have some additional people to provide experiences for you that add on to your trip. There's also things like we have contacts in Buenos Aires if your luggage gets lost, if you need an immediate pickup from the airport. There's all these things that come along to booking with an agent. And I'm like Nikki, where I've never used travel agents for anything because I feel like I can usually figure these things out all on my own. But I feel in this industry, there's so much that you need to figure out. There's so many questions that need to be answered. And also just having a point of contact for your pre and post, because you'll typically be able to get in touch with your agent much more than you would when you're working with a ship operator. Do you find, Nikki, that's the case too? Like you work in sales. How late are you texting people every single day?
That's exactly the point that I was about to bring up. The thing with booking directly with the operator is that you're kind of stuck to what their office hours are. When you book with a agency, we don't really have office hours. I work on the weekends. Chelsea's working constantly as well. If I get an email that I can respond to while I'm like out at a bar, I'll respond to that email. We're kind of on it, not 24/7.
I want to see those responses, Nikki, the ones from the bar. Can I get a copy of those?
Yeah, absolutely.
What time in the bar? How many drinks in?
They're glorious.
This is kind of important information.
You never know what's going to happen.
Time zones are a big one too, right? Time zones.
Yeah, time zones are a big one too. We're spread throughout a lot of different time zones. I backpack full time, so I'm kind of constantly in a different time zone. So I'm responding to things at all hours, and I know that Chelsea is as well. And agents just tend to be on it a little bit more than operators are, because operators tend to be a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 kind of thing. And if you need help outside of those hours, you have to wait until Monday.
Exactly. That's a very good point. And as you put it as well, Nikki, like time zones, like a lot of times the agents based in your home country or in your time zone, and there's benefits of booking with people in your jurisdiction as well, right? Which sometimes a tour operator, the ship operator may be located, I know, in Europe or in the US or in Australia or different countries, different regions. An agent will actually be that little kind of connector to them.
Yeah.
You're spot on, I think. And there's some great polar agents out there. I mean, it's, I think, probably a good dozen or so I come to off the top of my head who are just really top of their craft and know their stuff and do exactly as you say.
And that's a good point, because while I said we don't want this to just be about booking with us, because like we talked about freestyle adventure travel, you've also got Polar Track's another great one. You've got your bigger ones like Swoop and Intrepid and Chimu and all those. If you're going to book through an agent, the only thing that I would suggest is, one, have a conversation with them. Make sure you feel good about them and go with an agent that has a reputation in the industry, because you'll see a lot of people posting on things like Reddit, and they'll say, hey, I'm looking to book a trip to Antarctica. Can somebody help me out? And then you'll get these messages that say, oh, I can help you. And they're just one person. You do want to work with somebody who's got a bit of a team behind them, because you want to make sure that there's always somebody available.
In these agencies, you have a wide amount of knowledge, right? You have people who've been on multiple ships multiple times a year. If you go to a company direct, generally speaking, that person at the end of the phone, if they've been to Antarctica, has been on that one ship, on that one company. I mean, with a really good agent, they've been on sometimes 4, 5, 6 ships, and there might be someone else in their agency that's been on 4, 5, 6 ships. And you can actually get a real comparison. So people out there on forums, and I see them all the time on Facebook going, hey, what's the best ship to go on? And of course, people naturally will say, well, I went with this operator because that's the trip I did and it was amazing. And yeah, it probably was amazing, but they got nothing to compare it to. And I guess that's why the agencies are so important, because you have that broad knowledge and people have done multiple trips on multiple ships.
You summed it up perfectly, because I say this all the
All
time.
right, we're over. I'm done. All right. We got a coffee.
Bye, Greg.
I say it all the time. If you called operator X and you said, hey, I'm interested in booking your trip, how do you differ from somebody else? Operator X probably has only been on their own company's trips. You're exactly right. You reach out to some of the more experienced agencies. We actually put our team on trips every single season with different companies so they can experience different products. Nikki's been with Albatross. You've been with Aurora. You're going with Oceanwide. Ricardo is out with Swan Hellenic right now. Chelsea just went with Quark. So we're trying to make sure that we have as much knowledge in the industry and on different itineraries year after year after year in both Antarctica and the Arctic. Like you said, like Greg perfectly summed it up, just a more diverse comparison between certain companies, because they're all a little different in their own ways, and one might fit your needs better than the other one might.
Exactly right. And you've got that broadness and you've got that ability, because at the end of the day, your incentive is to get that client the right ship. As an agent, that's what you want. You want to get your client on the right ship. If you work for an operator, and this is myself included, my own interest is to fill my own ship. But if you're an agent, you just want to get the right client, because you get the referrals, you get people coming back to you, telling their friends, hey, Neil or Nikki, they looked around and they looked at 5 different options for me and they helped me choose. It was so confusing. You don't get that with an operator direct. It's that simple. But if you know what you want, okay, sure, go to an operator direct. But for people who are asking questions, 100%.
And I think one of the other benefits to working with an agent is also they're constantly doing the work for you, because you could reach out to Nikki, say 8, 9, 10 months in advance and say, hey, here are my criteria for a trip. I want to do a classic Antarctica. Here's my budget. Here are the activities I want to do. I want to make sure I'm in a balcony cabin. And then you just leave it in Nikki's hands. And she might not have the right trip for you tomorrow or the day after or a week after. Maybe there's just not something that meets your criteria. But then a deal comes out, a special comes out, a really nice early bird discount appears. And then next thing you know, Nikki's sending you an email that says, hey, so-and-so, this deal just popped up. You're not paying for that service at all.
No, you're not.
And we will work with our clients for 2 years before finding them the right deal. And it doesn't matter if we close the deal in a day or we close the deal in 2 years. It doesn't cost a penny to use an agent. And we said earlier, agents might find better deals. They might find deals that you don't know about. A lot of times when there is a deal or there is a discount, the ship operators don't release those to the public. You actually will probably get a better deal if you go through an agency versus going through a tour operator, because they send out their deals to the agents only.
100% true. And I've done that a lot over the years, especially as an operator. That's something you do sometimes because you need to. You might have a trip half full and you might need to put people in there, and you don't want to broadcast it because you've got people paying full price, right? So, and I'm not saying this is common. It doesn't happen every day, but it does happen. And as an agent, you're kind of in the box seat if you're working with an agent because they get access to a lot of these deals.
I also think there's a lot of value in working with an agent because you might not know exactly what you want, or there might be some things that you're looking for that don't exist, right? We had a conversation about South Georgia and camping. So there might be somebody out there who's constantly on the hunt for a South Georgia trip that offers camping and crosses in the circle, and they're wrapping their heads around it. And then we come out and we say, hey, look, that trip just doesn't exist. Let's dial it back a little bit. Let's find out what's most important to you. And then we can tailor a trip more specifically to everything that meets your needs. And there's going to need to be some compromises here and there, but an agent can flush all that stuff out. If you say, hey, I really want to go see the emperor penguins and I want to go in February, you're like, Well, there's a reason you couldn't find that trip. So what are some of the other things that I think people are considering when they're trying to decide between booking between an agent or booking directly?
I think another important thing when you're booking with an agent, we don't book flights or hotels on your behalf. We can help you figure that stuff out. And I think that when you book directly with an operator, once you're booked, they're not really going to hold your hand along the way. We're here to help every step of the way. If you're confused about what to pack, if you're confused about what kind of charging block to bring on the boat, if you're confused about how much you should tip, if you're confused about basically anything, an agent will have your back to help guide you through that process. So I think if you're someone who needs a little bit of extra assistance when you're planning something, especially something as intricate as a trip to Antarctica, I think an agent is the smarter option.
And a lot of operators put out pre-embarkation packages. They often don't come out until just before, maybe like a month before embarkation. We send ours out immediately. I spent probably a good 2 months building what I consider to be the most robust pre-embarkation package. Again, not trying to pat myself on the shoulder, but having been a guide for 10 years, I've seen over and over and over again the information that's missing from these embarkation brochures or pamphlets. And I just put it all in there. One of the things that people also are concerned about, I think sometimes, is the payments. I would say most agents actually don't take the payments. We still run the payment through the tour operator or through the ship operator, which is great for you for your credit card benefits, your miles, for any sort of insurances that come along with the trip. So even making your payments just usually goes through the operator instead of through the agent as well. So just another thing that I want to touch on that I have heard people have been concerned about in the past. Another example, in the very rare occurrence when there's like a trip cancellation or something. If you're booked directly with the company and there's a cancellation, they're going to say, I'm sorry, we're going to give you your money back. And you're kind of stuck. Maybe you're already in Ushuaia and maybe you want to hop on a ship. Maybe your agent can get you on a different departure with a different company in the next day or two to maybe salvage what time you just took off to get down there. That happens a few times a season. It's not super common, but we've run into that a lot.
It happens a lot. I mean, I remember at Chimu, that's something we used to get a lot, is where, you get ships hit ice, ships have engine failures, there's protests, there's strikes, there's supply chain issues. There's all sorts of issues that happen, right? And quite often, as an agent, they're best placed to help you get on a new trip. Where an operator, it's in their interest to keep you on the ship. And again, I'm shooting myself in the foot, but an agent is really, really important in that respect. But again, not all operators are created equal as well. That's something we talk about. Not all agents are equal. Not all operators are equal. Some operators have really good expertise. They have people on the end of the phone or the email who have been around and have traveled other companies. Some of the bigger, larger operators that are now coming into the industry over the last few years, a lot of those guys have offshored a lot of their expertise and a lot of their customer service. And if you book a European river cruise or if you book an Antarctic expedition, you're talking to the same person. So you're not necessarily getting that expertise that you would once get from an operator either. So not all operators are created equal, as well as not all agents.
Yeah, Greg, you're absolutely right. You may not be dealing with people who are just fully experienced in the polar industry.
Exactly.
And it is a quirky industry. It's not like you can just jump in and next thing you know, everything there is to know about Antarctica. So we really don't want to drag this on. This is a really challenging episode for sure, but it's important. So, when I set out to do this podcast, I said from the get-go that it wasn't going to be a sales pitch for ATG and Let's Go Polar. And that's still the case. And I'm here to advocate on behalf of not just our travel agent, but all travel agencies out there, because I believe wholeheartedly that we provide so much value in this industry. And if you were to call any operator or any CEO of an operator and say, hey, what's your opinion on travel agents? They're all going to say that they fully support them. You get a personalized customer experience. You're going to probably find deals that you didn't know existed. You're going to have people advocating for you if there's a cancellation. And when it comes to activity space, you might find somebody who's able to get you a camping spot that you couldn't find on your own. You're going to get a trip more tailored to your needs. The list goes on and on and on. And I really just wanted to use this episode to debunk a lot of myths that people have when it comes to travel agents versus booking directly. Because I'll be honest with you, when I go on Skyscanner and I find a good flight, I go directly to the airline's website. I don't book it through Skyscanner. I'm that kind of person. And I think a lot of people in the travel industry a lot of travelers are that way. You just this peace of mind that comes along with booking direct. But I just think that our industry is so incredibly niche and it's so overwhelming because there's so many different options, and there's absolutely no drawback to using a well-recognized, reputable agent. I wouldn't reach out to an agent that doesn't have a lot of polar experience. I understand we all have to start somewhere, but you really want to find someone who's got knowledge, experience, and a reputation, and just go with who makes you feel the most comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And look, we get clients all the time who might come to us via an agent and then come to us direct, and then they come to us via another agent. And we always say to people, book who you're comfortable booking with. And 9 times out of 10, it's the agent. They go with an agent who knows what they're talking about. It's so common. And these agents, as I said, they're scattered all around the world. There's so many of them. And you've got to realize that Antarctica is a really, really, really niche product in the travel industry. I know it's getting more and more common, and everyone seems to be going there. But as something we wrote on our website yesterday, on the Terra Nova website, you got 130,000 people go to Antarctica a year. That's a modern stadium of people in the entire world. Out of how many billion people in the world, 130,000 people a year go to Antarctica. It's a high ticket price. People are spending a lot of money. There's so much scarcity and so much rarity there. You really don't want to mess it up. And I would really always be booking with someone who knows what they're talking about.
That's it. Wrap it up. That was it.
Yeah. Wrap it up.
You summarized it perfectly. This has been a challenging episode because we want to give our listeners all the most accurate information, but coming from owning a travel agency, advocating for travel agents, it's a difficult episode because we don't want people to think that we're coercing them by any means whatsoever. I really, truly, wholeheartedly believe there is so much more benefit to using an agent.
I think that's why we had Greg on, because he has worked on both sides and he's able to give as close to an unbiased opinion as we can realistically get.
Yeah,
that's nice, Nikki.
That's exactly, yeah.
That's way nicer than anything Neil would ever say. It's way nicer than Neil. I'll do this podcast more regularly if you're here, Nikki. I mean,
yeah, this will definitely be one of our shorter episodes. So far to date, this is our shortest episode. I don't think it needs to be an hour long. I think we covered everything that we wanted to talk about. Greg, you are always a pleasure to get on a video chat with. Obviously the people at home can't see us, but it's just a little weird because, like I said, all of our meetings usually start with a beer in our hands because you're Australian and that's just our vibe. But time zones make a difference because it'll be my happy hour beer. It's your breakfast beer, but you're Australian. So that's what it is.
I already had 5 today, Neil. I'm joking.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you guys have any questions, we did mention that we were going to do a question box, and we do plan on doing the question box. But what we've started to notice is that we had intended to answer the questions at the end of every episode, but every episode is going a bit longer than we thought. So what we're going to do is we're going to do dedicated question box episodes where the whole episode is just going to be me, my team, and a bunch of the guests that you've already heard on the show. We're all going to get together. We're going to start answering your questions one at a time, and we'll do that in a future episode. So please start sending us some questions. We've already got a whole bunch that we can't wait to go through, but our email address is info@thedrakeshake.com. I want to take an opportunity to thank our guest, Mr. Carter. Greg, thank you so much for being here. You're going to be a very frequent guest on our show. You have got so much knowledge. Thanks for being part of this podcast.
Anytime, man. It's always great to be on board anything with you guys. The episodes I've heard so far, you've got some really great people I know lined up as well. It's a lot of people I'm talking to. There's a lot of hype in the industry about this, Neil. So I don't want to inflate your ego too much here, man, but you're doing a good job. It's awesome.
We got 1,400 downloads in our first week.
It's awesome.
That's amazing. Really cool.
We're really stoked on it. Now, Nikki, thank you so much again for another great episode. You're an absolute rock star. I cannot wait to hear everything about your trip when you get home. To everybody listening, thanks again for supporting this podcast. This means a lot to us. This is a passion project. We're really excited to continue to pump out episodes week after week. It's been a lot of work. I want to give a little bit of a shout out to Nikki, who has been just helping on the editing side of things. I don't think people realize the work that goes into the post-production of a podcast.
It's a lot.
And we've kind of got it down to a rhythm. So huge shout out to Nikki. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Greg.
I'm just praying that she edits out all my swearing and carrying on about my my technical difficulties at the start of this one. Are you really?
I'm going to find a way to make it way worse. I'm just going to double it and just make it a nightmare.
I'm in trouble here.
All right, everybody, we're going to wrap this one up. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're interested in looking at some trip opportunities and you've got some questions, you could always visit our website, letsgopolar.com. You can go over to trips and you can see a whole list of available itineraries for the upcoming seasons. If you reach out to us, we'll give you some insight on some of the deals that we have coming up. And if you have any questions, feel free to join the Antarctica Travel Group Facebook group. It's the largest polar community on the web. Really great group of people. Other than that, thanks again so much. We look forward to your emails. It's info@thedrakeshake.com. Thank you to my guests. My name is Neil Drake, and that was The Shake.
If you found today's episode helpful, don't forget to subscribe. Every week, we discuss a new topic in depth. And if you have any questions, feedback, or just want to say hey, feel free to drop us a line at info@thedrakeshake.com. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you in the next episode.